Okay, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure I was recording. I don't remember if I hit it or not. All right, we're good.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back again. And I only say again because we had took to shoot a video like a week ago and it messed up and we couldn't get it to you. So this time with a new app, we're trying to do everything we can to get you guys good content. We have a lot to talk about and a lot to catch up on. This is Outside the Square Circle. I'm Dennis Ragland. That's Frank Nares. Let's go.
Um, I mean, really, you know what we can kick it off to? Let's just talk about Floyd and Conor. I know we're a little, little ways past that. Um, so I don't want to touch on it too much because really there was nothing to break down from a technical standpoint. Floyd just kept coming forward. He knew he was going to mentally break Conor, and he got him out of there. Did what he had to do. But I just feel like this is only furthering what MMA fans and boxing fans should know from jump. If you take an elite boxer and you take the best guy in MMA, the best stand-up guy in MMA, he's going to lose. Weight's not going to matter. Conor outweighed him by 20, 25 pounds that night. And it didn't matter. And I've been saying this. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast because it's been a while and my memory's kind of bad right now. I'm going through a bunch of crazy stuff here. But I said you could take someone like Lomachenko and he would have beat the brakes off Conor. And he would have been outweighed by Conor by 40-something pounds. We're talking here. So in terms, boxing skill just doesn't translate from MMA, to boxing. Their stand-up game is just so different. Now, I'm only saying all that to also say it's the same thing if it was the other way around. If an elite boxer goes in against an elite MMA fighter in the octagon, it's going to be the same result. They should not be competing against each other. The fight.
We've seen that so many times though. Like guys, they were a little past their primes, but we've seen boxers go into UFC and get choked out.
Yeah, James Toney got the life beaten out of him. He went in there and fought. I'm so bad, when it comes to UFC and MMA type stuff. So was it Randy Couture that he fought?
I think it's Couture.
And he just, but that was expected. You know what I'm saying? So, we need to stop. Now, granted, I'll always vouch for boxing. I'm a boxing fan. I'm not that big of a fan of MMA. There's a few dudes every now and then that come along that I do enjoy watching their fights. So I'll always vouch for that. But we need to stop this whole competition thing. There ain't no competition. It's two totally separate sports. Someone broke it down perfect. And really, I'm done after this. I don't have too much to say. If you want to touch on it, you can. But someone broke it down, and I don't remember from where, because I saw a bunch of different videos and things, and in the lead up to the fight, and they were like, "This is like taking a distance runner and taking a sprinter and making them race. If they race in the distance guy's gonna kill them. If they race in the sprint guy, it's the same thing. So the fight was a little bit more competitive than I thought. Conor did look a little bit better than I thought, but at the same time, Floyd didn't fight for 3 rounds. He kind of let him punch himself out. And he just kept coming forward and cracked the egg. And that was exactly what any logical boxing fan, predicted. I don't know if everyone predicted a TKO. I predicted a TKO. But I just knew he would win in any fashion he wanted to win. And that's exactly what happened. Dennis, do you want to, touch any bit on the fight?
This actually makes me think of something else. It makes me think of how Andre Berto is saying he seriously wants to compete in UFC, and he wants to be the first boxing champion to be a UFC champion. And because I can touch on Floyd versus McGregor, but I don't think I can say anything that you shouldn't know if you're a boxing fan.
Right.
There's nothing I can tell you that you shouldn't already get. So I just want to touch on a new element. I want to ask this: if anybody could be successful in the UFC, do you think a guy like Andre Berto could successfully do it? Do you think he has the proper tools and mechanism to be successful in UFC?
See, I don't, and who I think does though, and I actually want to hear.
Sean Porter.
I was just gonna say yes, Sean Porter. I think Sean Porter would be solid because he already manhandles guys in boxing. He gets on the inside, so granted he doesn't have a takedown game or a takedown defense. He'd have to train for stuff like that, but he has that bigger body, and I'm not sure what the weight classes are in MMA. I know they don't have a 147. I think it's 145. I don't want to sound stupid. I don't even want to say because I really don't know what their weight classes consist of, but their welterweight is like 170. Their welterweights are big. They're not the same as, so I don't know who he would compete with, but he's a big dude, and I think he played football in the past. He would be. I still think he would lose, but I think in terms of elite fighters, he would have the better chance of being able to transition. I will say this though, before I toss it back to you, Berto is wrong about that being the first boxer having a championship in both sports, because Holly Holm did it when she beat Ronda Rousey.
That's true.
She was a professional boxer, and then she beat the brakes off Ronda Rousey to win that belt. But I mean, I feel like you put more thought into it. Do you think just Sean Porter, or are there other guys you think can kind of make a decent transition over?
Honestly, I really think it's something I think a guy that would really be good at it, and that he's just making his comeback to boxing, and most people thought he was done, but I think Mike Alvarado would make a great UFC fighter, just because this cat was a wrestling champion before he converted to boxing.
Yeah.
When he was Mike Alvarado, he was a wrestling champion. And he said, you know what, let me try this boxing thing, and he became champion at that. So if he had to go, if I had to pick somebody that says, you know what, his striking game would be good, and he has a good ground game because he came from being a champion at that.
Yeah.
Most people, I would think Mike Alvarado would maybe have a good chance. He remind me, he would be like the guy Conor fought, Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
He would be like I feel like he would be like that type of fighter, and he would be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, and that brings it up. Mike Alvarado has came back. He wasn't fighting the most elite competition, but he did look good for what he did, and I want to see him fight a meaningful fight, because I really want to gauge if he's shot.
Yeah.
Or if maybe like, I don't know if he'll be a champion again, but I know he'll be a tough competition for anybody coming up. Or if you want to test the guy, I think he'll be good for that.
I see. I agree with that, and we briefly spoke on Mike Alvarado, through text, and the everlasting impression that I had was when it was the third fight with Brandon Rios, where Brandon just, did whatever he felt like doing to him. Anytime Brandon felt like touching him, he touched him. You know what I mean? Like, he was using footwork, and Brandon Rios didn't have the best footwork. Granted, he's gotten better working with Robert Garcia and everything, but still, even then, he's a come forward, slugger type of guy, and he was just not only outworking, outskilling, outslugging. He was beating the brakes off Mike Alvarado, and I just remember Alvarado in the post-fight, in-ring interview, he was like, yeah, man, I didn't really do too much training. Like, I apologize to the fans that came out. I just kind of took the fight, and I was like, and he was kind of slurring his words. It just seemed like a bad thing moving forward. Granted, I didn't see his last fight. I know you saw it, and you said he looked pretty good, but I do agree that, he would be a good test for some young guys coming up. It would be kind of that threshold that if you can't beat Mike Alvarado, you probably need to go back to the drawing board and, work on some things and work your way back up. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, man, that type of fighter is so dangerous, because I look at guys like who's the guy that beat Lomachenko, Orlando Salido. He's kind of in that same vein, and very offensive fighter, very come forward, gets hit a lot. Granted, we're not seeing the signs with him just yet, but that's kind of what he is at this point. He's an exciting guy that kind of tests the young guys, and even in the fights he's winning, he's getting beat up. You know what I mean? So, like, I can only imagine years from now, 10, 15 years, he's going to, have brain injuries and things. And, like, the older I get as a man, it's hard for me to want fighters to be in that position. Like, man, like, I do want him to be that gatekeeper, because
you're passionate about the sport. You kind of care about these guys.
Right, and and it hit me, it was very recent. Excuse me, fairly recently, maybe whenever PBC really started taking off, or really like started coming on, and they had Tommy Hearns on a broadcast, and I was like, oh shit, like, I ain't seen the Hitman Hearns in a minute.
Right.
I'm excited, and he's like, it's taken him a while to think of words, he's slurring, and I'm like, damn, man, like, that was one of my favorite. I didn't ever get to really watch him live because I was too young, but going back when I was doing my homework in history, like, he's one of my favorite fighters of all time to watch. So seeing stuff like that, like, that's what threw me for a loop. I was like, man, like, I don't, the earlier fighters can retire, the absolute better, especially guys who come forward and are very offensive. You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying, Because from a boxing standpoint, I would like to see Alvarado kind of go back through the ranks and work his way back up. But that everlasting impression that I saw after that third Rios fight, just I was like, man, I really hope he retires. But I mean, maybe he'll have kind of that second or third breath in boxing, and he can have a few more fights and make a little bit more money before he does retire.
And that's really what I want to see happen. I never want to see a guy go out the way he did, having legal problems, having drug issues, and getting beat up.
And he had a gun. Didn't he have a gun charge or something?
Huh?
Didn't he have a gun charge too, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, like I forget what he had. Like I think it was like he had it was like a fight in a bar. He got found with a weapon or something like that.
Right.
And he was on drugs. He had like a lot of issues. You know what I mean? I just didn't want that to be the last time I seen him, and that's how it ended. So I'm kind of rooting for his comeback. You know what I mean? Even if he can get a few meaningful fights, and then he's done. Let's on somebody that gave a lot to the sport, because he's been in wars. You know?
Yeah.
Guys like that have been in wars to entertainers. I always want to see it end well for them.
No, I feel that. You know what though? We kind of did breeze past something about Floyd, because Max Kellerman said something semi-controversial, and I actually wanted us to both kind of touch on that, and we can completely move on from that and look at some of these upcoming fights we got. Kellerman said that Floyd would have lost to Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and Keith Thurman the way he looked that night. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely not. Floyd fights everybody on their level. We've seen Floyd clearly kick it in the second when he's fighting guys like Canelo.
Right.
How he kicks it in the second gear, and even it is skillful and as good as guys like him are. They like, I don't know what to do now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Floyd has that second gear he'll put it into. Like even with the Shane Mosley thing, he got caught twice good, and then Floyd came in there and unleashed the dragon, and Shane was like, okay, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
That's Floyd. Floyd fights on that level. Well, if you seen the last fight with Andre, the fight before this one with Andre Berto, Floyd coasted through that fight.
Yeah.
He was dancing, having fun. You know what I mean? You can't take that Floyd and say if he was fighting Sean Porter or Terrence Crawford that he would lose, because Floyd would not fight that way. We would see a sharp, we would see a sharp, defensive-minded Floyd. Floyd was not being defensive-minded at all against Conor.
No, he didn't respect him. He didn't have to.
Down. So absolutely not. Like if you think Floyd would have fought the exact same way he fought Conor, that he would have fought a guy like Spence or Terrence Crawford, you out your mind. Floyd would have been moving around, jabbing, pop shots, moving, looking at the clock, moving. Like it would have been a boring fight, and Floyd would have outpointed him and won. That's what would have happened.
See, and I felt the same way. I said, it's hard to say. I can't really give a yes or no, because at this stage in Floyd's career, would I be shocked that he lost to a top 3, top 5 welterweight? No, he's old. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would never shock me that a 40-year-old loses to someone in their prime. But just that whole argument, I felt the same way you did. He's not going to fight anyone, a top 10 welterweight in the same fashion that he did Conor, because he didn't have anything to worry about with Conor. This is something that I've been saying, even way before the fights got signed, that he wouldn't have the same type of power in boxing that he did in MMA. It's just too different. The stances, everything about it. So he didn't have anything to respect. And even, if he did have the power that he did, he didn't know how to set it up. You know what I mean? He didn't know how to set that up. And these guys
that was his biggest problem. Like, people even, I'm sorry to cut you off, but people even went to the list of saying that Conor threw the fight because of how he was missing. No, he just didn't know how to throw punches well.
Exactly.
He's not a boxer.
That whole thing was so goofy. That video showing him, he was pulling punches. Paulie had been telling us for weeks before the fight that Conor doesn't know how to throw punches, and he didn't throw that hard. And everyone was like, oh, you just got your ass beat, Paulie, so we don't believe.
Right.
Paulie has no reason. I've never taken Paulie. He can be a bit much at times. He can be a little bit annoying when it comes to certain things. But in terms of his boxing analysis, I've never really thought of him as one to lie about certain things. You know what I mean? Like, he still talks about getting his ass kicked by Miguel Cotto to this day. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you lose to a better fighter, you just lose to a better fighter. But he had been telling us that he's an arm puncher. He doesn't hit that hard. And we kind of knew that, though. Boxing's a different beast. We knew he wasn't going to be able, and just like I said, I went live right after the fight, was, everyone's like, well, what if he lands the big left hand? He landed the big left hand in the first minute of the fight, and Floyd it tickled him. It didn't do shit to him.
Right.
Floyd just kept coming forward and breaking him down. It didn't matter. And, hats off to Conor because he landed a lot more punches than I thought he would. Granted, Floyd was fighting more offensive. Had I known Floyd was going to be that offensive, I would have. I made a few bets saying that Conor wouldn't land a clean power shot, thinking that Floyd was going to be dancing around a little bit to tire him out and then go for the kill. That's besides the point. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think Floyd would have fought anyone else in the welterweight division or even, at 154 in that manner. And it's really hard to say, could he still compete with the young guys?
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's something you have to see. You know what I mean? Because anything can happen. Like you always say, a young hungry lion coming up in their prime, and he's a little bit older. Anything can happen in that scenario. But to say this Floyd looked like this will get beat, that's ridiculous because he's obviously choosing to fight that way. Exactly.
So, kind of transitioning from that because, I mean, I can talk all day about that fight. I'm still a little bit passionate about it because I've had, people, I still see people, Floyd needs to go in the octagon now. Shut up. Just stop. So I want that fight as far away from my mind as possible. So what's up with your boy, our boy, really, both of our boys, Mikey Garcia is talking about moving up to whatever weight. It's going to be somewhere in the 150s. Cotto ain't going, I don't think, below. He can still probably make 147, but he's old and he's getting a little lazy when it comes to the weight. Natural, that's fine. But is this should it, first of all, should it be made?
No, and no. I like Mikey. Mikey has the skills to pay the bills against any fighter, but he was fighting at 135. Moved up, looked excellent against Broner at 140.
Yeah.
If he decides to go to 147, I support him. That's one more weight class.
Even that might be too much for me.
You're not going to jump 2 weight classes above that.
Yeah.
And beat a hard-hitting Miguel Cotto, who still looks sharp. Did you not see the Kamazai fight?
No, he looked damn good.
He looked sharp. He's not going to go up there and beat him. He's going to go up there and lose. And you know what he's going to say? He's going to say what Canelo said when he lost against Floyd. Experience, learning lesson. That's what he's going to say.
Yeah.
This is a learning lesson. This is experience I learned from it. That's exactly what will happen. I guarantee you. He will go up there and lose and say that.
And the thing is, though, is you have to take your hat off to Mikey in the aspect that it's clear he's willing to fight anyone. People keep talking about him avoiding Terrence Crawford. I think that fight will get made if Crawford stays at 140 for next year. I don't think Mikey has a reason to avoid him. I mean, he hasn't
already vacated his belt to move to 147.
Oh, did he? I didn't even realize he did that.
He vacated him.
Damn,
they were trying to give him a mandatory.
Yeah.
The IBF was trying to give him a mandatory. He was like, I don't know, thank you, he vacated.
Okay, see, I've been out of the loop when it comes to smaller stuff like that. So, granted, maybe that fight doesn't get made then, at least for a while. Maybe at a catch weight at some point. I don't think Mikey's ever going to go up to the full 147. But he's looking at this Cotto fight as a lucrative fight, Cotto's last fight, so I understand it. And honestly, to be honest with you, pound for pound, I think Mikey is the better fighter. I think he's more technically sound. I think, his boxing skills are a little bit better. He has better stamina. Cotto's always had, been a little bit chinny and have some stamina issues here. But the size is just going to wind up being way too much.
It's too much too soon. That's all it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because he looked tiny against Broner at 140. And Broner's not the biggest 140-pounder. He's a solid, that's his weight class. When he's not being lazy, he can make 140 easy. And Mikey looked tiny and a little bit pudgy against him. He will look fat against Miguel Cotto. You know what I mean? Like, I don't...
At 154, he would have to come up with a tire.
That's what I mean, is that to go up there and stuff some weights in his underwear and get on the scale, he ain't going to be nowhere near. So, I'm hoping that he's just kind of throwing that out there to keep his name buzzing. Because I would like to see him fight Jorge Linares at the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
I would love that.
I think that's an excellent fight. And, just kind of continuing to burn through stuff because I don't really think I have anything else to say about, Cotto versus Mikey Garcia. Speaking of Lomachenko. So, to the best of my knowledge, like I said, I've been somewhat out of the loop, but I've been doing my best to keep up. Rigondeaux versus Lomachenko is confirmed, right? For
I heard, like, I sent you that. I don't know what. I don't know. I heard it was confirmed. And then Rigondeaux sent out the tweet saying, "Where's my contract?" So I don't know if it's. I don't know where it stands right now. Honestly, I don't. I don't know if it's all talk or if they're both, behind the scenes working to make it happen as we speak.
Well, to be honest with you, the reason why maybe there was a handshake agreement and they're just kind of ironing out the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason I believed it is because I don't remember who exactly tweeted it, but I remember it being a credible source, and they already had the date, and it was going to be on ESPN, and they also announced the Jeff Horn rematch with Pacquiao, which now is off because Pacquiao wants to focus more on politics. But I think that fight is all but official, so I did kind of want to get our initial thoughts on that. From what I'm hearing, it's going to be at 130 pounds. I think I haven't heard that it's going to be a catchweight. It's going to be at Lomachenko's weight class.
Yeah.
Which I think
it's going to be there.
Which I think is fair. I do think, even though neither of them are pay-per-view guys, I do think he's more of the A side just because of Aram's deal with ESPN now, and he has a little bit more leeway and leverage on the negotiation table. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think Lomo, being that he's a champion at more than one weight class.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. When we look at A-side, he's a champion at more than one weight class, and actually a network backing him, whereas Rigondeaux had troubles getting dates to get signed, to get shown.
I mean, he's been fighting in China for the last 17 years.
Right. So that pretty much shows marketability, who's drawing in the crowd, who's drawing in the fans, who's going to be the ace side. That's how it is. Even if you're a better fighter,
right? It's
all about the money. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, that's how it was when it was with Cotto and Canelo, and Cotto was the ace side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he had the bigger name. You know what I mean? So in this one, Lomachenko is the A side. So I'm not mad at it being at 130 because he has the card. Rigondeaux wants to fight, so it's like, if you really want this fight, come fight.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not mad at that.
And see, and you know what?
One thing I'm worried about, though, will that weight size be too much? Is this the question for you?
See, and
130 too much?
See, I was going to touch on that. Before I was going to even touch on that, I just want to make a quick comment. The one thing that always bothered me about Rigondeaux, and I think he's a phenomenal boxer, I don't find him boring. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't find the technicalities of boxing boring. So you won't hear, no one will ever hear me badmouth Rigondeaux. I love the way he boxes. I do wish when and I've had this kind of same complaint about Floyd sometimes, where when you know you have your guy out of there, go ahead and take him out. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen that with Rigondeaux, where he kind of carries a fight for 12 rounds. That's besides the point. I do love his fighting style, and the one thing I always didn't like about him is that he'd call guys out, and then, when there'd be a little bit of chatter, and then they'd ask him about it, and then they'd say, well, are you willing to move up to his weight class? And he'd say, no, they have to come down to me. And it's like, bro, you have to understand right now, you're the boogeyman. The boogeyman don't call the shots. The boogeyman has to go in and do what he has to do. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's very rare that guys that are as talented as him and nobody wants to fight, that people conform to their standards. Not everyone is Andre Ward. Andre Ward moved up to 175 and took out the boogeyman twice, right? But in his case, he has something to prove, because really the only name on his resume, well, he has a few of them, but the one that really put him on the map was Nonito Donaire, right? And then he had the Agbeko win, and he's had a few solid wins since then. But if you want bigger names still, you have to at least conform to something. Don't, especially when weight, with the smaller guys, I've always felt like weight isn't the biggest of deals because they rely more on speed and skill anyway. They don't use, a lot of them don't use their size. There's a few, like Orlando Salido knows how to use his bigger frame. But with these two, they're going to rely on skill when they fight each other. So just kind of turning over to the question you asked, and I'd like you to answer it as well. Will the weight be too much? It may or may not be, but for me, Lomachenko doesn't use it, so he's not going to use his, bigger frame and bigger size to wear him out. It's all just going to be on how well Rigondeaux can take the punches, because, Lomachenko sets up his punches he might be the best fighter right now in the world at setting up his punches and using his footwork to create angles. And so we've seen Rigondeaux hurt before, we've seen Rigondeaux drop before. So I don't have a doubt in my mind that Lomachenko will be able to touch him. I'm not saying he's going to light him up, but he's going to, land some good shots. It's really going to depend on how well Rigondeaux's chin holds up. Now, do you think weight is going to be an issue with this fight? Because it's looking like it will be at 130.
I'm not sure yet. What I want to see is once the fight is official and the guys start training, I look at things like how they look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see how he looks, putting on a little bit more weight. How when he's moving, and he still has his cat-like reflexes. You know what I mean? I want to be able to, if I see stuff like that, I just need to see if I see and he still looks solid. You know what I mean? I think then I'll go and say it won't. But if I see him and it looks like, well, this may hurt him because Lomachenko may just be too big for him, too big, too strong.
Right.
And I'll go that way. But I don't know yet, honestly, because I don't know how does he make 122? Does he kill himself to make it, or is he needed to move up because you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Right.
That's something I will have to wait to see. But one thing, if I had to favor anybody right now, if I'm just favoring, I'm favoring Rigondeaux right now only because I feel like we haven't seen him lose. Granted, how Lomachenko lost was just a learning experience. You know what I mean? Because
right.
it was just, hey, I'm coming here roughhousing, being dirty, and he wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we haven't seen Ringo lose yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if I had to go with somebody, I would go with him right now, but they can change in a minute. Same how with Triple G Canelo. Every other day I'm saying, Canelo's going to outbox. Then I'm saying, you know what, man? He's going to get caught. He's going to get hurt. He's going to get out of there. I don't. This is like when this fight's 50-50 that close, there are hairline things that can separate who wins and who loses.
Right.
Take the finest of details to edge a person over.
I agree.
Anybody that's just saying this is easy, like I hate when fans say,
that's so
this
goofy.
Is easy. This is easy. He's gonna kill him. Like, are you kidding me? At this level, when he's fighting the best, it's not easy for anybody.
Right. No, I agree with you, and I've gone. I have my pick for Canelo Triple G. We're gonna wait till next week to talk about that. But no, I swayed back and forth with that fight, and when this fight got made, and hopefully it does get finalized and they announce it. It's on ESPN. That would be great for the sport. Initially, it was hard for me to even see who I favored because partly of what you said, we haven't seen Rigondeaux lose, so we don't know what type of style is gonna trouble Rigondeaux. Because he hasn't truly been troubled just yet. Right now, we saw the style that troubled Lomachenko early in his professional career, but one, not very many people fight that way. Salido was just a tough, rugged dude. He's going to give a lot of people trouble. And we know Rigondeaux doesn't fight that way, so he's not going to present the same issues that Salido did, even though I feel like Salido now, or even anyone fighting in that style, could trouble Lomachenko. I think he's gotten so much better since then, that won't even trouble him. So in my mind, I guess the way I'm processing everything is that who is the better boxer? And that's so hard to say because they're so brilliant and they both fight in extreme, on the different sides of the spectrum. They both are so technically sound, very fast, very sharp. But Rigondeaux was obviously a counterpuncher, a very defense-first Cuban-style fighter, whereas Lomachenko is an offensive guy, but he's, one of the very few guys you can see that's coming forward the whole fight and not getting touched. So it's going to be about timing, it's going to be about footwork, it's going to be about the very small things that, a lot of people who are watching the sport don't even know that they're seeing. And that's so hard to call. So it's like, in terms of who has the upper hand, I always favor the defensive guy against an offensive guy, just naturally when it's kind of a toss-up. But at the same time, man, it's hard. It's hard. I guess I'm in the same boat as you. At this very moment, I would probably lean like 51% Rigondeaux, 49, to Lomachenko. But that fight's going to be great, man. That fight is going to be close. That is going to be hotly contested the whole way through.
You know what? It's another string of fights coming up. It's the Austin Trout versus
Oh
Eric
man,
Hurd.
that fucking
And
card.
then listen. This I have been going back and forth against this too. This what made me think of this. Because I'm like, I don't know who's gonna win versus Lubin.
Yeah, Erickson Lubin and Jermell Charlo. Yeah.
Yeah, Lubin, that kid can hit and he can. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that card is like.
Who? There's another. Oh, Lara's on the card as well. Arislani Lara's on that card. I forget who he's fighting.
Card as well too.
That's a great card. That is an incredible card. They just took the. I was just gonna say you can go.
That HBO takes this dagger.
Man, hey, they took the top 6 guys roughly. You know, I'm not trying to debate with anyone on the internet. I'm just saying they took some of the top 6 guys at 154 and threw them all on one card.
On one card said take this.
And said take it. And you know what though? But this is the thing. This is a showcase for every single one of them because the winners, you know, can potentially face each other, and then the losers can potentially face each other.
All of them can be swapped into like, you know what I mean? Like,
dude,
you can, he can fight the loser, and like this is just a mix and match.
Bro, you can make 3 more cards out of this afterwards. You know, another card. When is this card? Is this an October card?
October 14th.
October 14th. You can make another one come like February or March. Then after that, another one in like July next year. Like you can just keep mixing and matching them.
And this is what we need, like the best guys. Fight
man.
And if they get a loss, we don't throw them away. Recycle them, fight again, and continue to build up.
Yeah, because, and you know, here's the thing, and here's something that I do want to touch on, because we were some of the first people, you know, that called this. And, you know, a lot of people were very upset with the PBC brand in the first year. And me and you were the first ones on this very podcast. You guys can go and you know, search our YouTube history. We were the first ones saying, yo, chill. They're not going to match their top guys against each other just yet. They have to build. They have a brand to build. You know what I'm saying? And there was a lawsuit with Golden Boy and you know, Heyman. Just chill out. It'll get there. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that. We're starting to see these big fights get made. I mean, PBC has been putting together brilliant cards. You know what I mean? On Showtime and on free TV. Like, I don't get how anyone can complain about this at all. These fights have been incredible. And even if they weren't the most entertaining, they're putting together fights that make sense. You know what I mean? Like, even a more recent example, you know, Cotto and Kamagai, exciting fight. You know, Cotto probably won, you know, 10, 11, 12 rounds of the fight. But it didn't really mean anything. There's only so many fights that you can watch just for entertainment value. I like fights that mean something to boxing, that mean something to a division, that means something for someone's career moving forward. Even if Cotto loses that fight to Kamagai, his legacy's in stone. He can retire after that. Cool, he's made a good living. It didn't mean anything whether he won or lost. Now these guys, this 154-pound card right here, this means something. Each and every one of these guys that lose. If Erickson Lubin loses to Jermell, right, that means that, you know, he just wasn't ready for the big time. He needs to go back to the drawing board and work his way back up. If Jermell loses, you know, now people are saying, whoa, was he a hype job or is Erickson Lubin that good?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of hurts him a little bit because you lost to a guy that...
with Trout and Jared Hurd.
Exactly.
Jared Hurd is the new champion.
Exactly.
If he beats Trout, he's solidified.
Yep.
He's a real champ. He's not just a guy that won a title.
Yep.
If Trout beats him, he said, you know what? Well, he just happened to be the guy that was a little bit better than, but you know what? He needs some growing to do. And Austin Trout is who we thought he was.
Yeah.
So it's like, this tells us so much about people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's only... They had like Ishe Smith fighting Julian J. Rock. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or even...
the last two on there.
Hey, throw Andrade in there too. Get him on the card somehow.
Yeah.
Get us something. Hey, but that card, man, that's one of the most meaningful cards from top to bottom in terms of the headliners that I can remember in a while. Maybe Floyd Canelo and Matisse and Danny Garcia. That was the last card I can think of.
That was like the best. That was, I remember being like, just giving me that feel again. Because when I heard it, like, they gonna put Danny Garcia with me.
Man, I was so happy.
Yeah, I was through the roof. So, like, give me that feel again. And we can do it because we got so many names. It can be done.
Yeah, no.
Bob Arum. You don't got to just have one good main event. Throw some guys on there that we want.
And that's the thing. I don't know why he thinks that way. Oh, no one cares about the undercards. I do. Who are you speaking for? I do. And then, granted, they don't all have to be, championship fights. But he puts together dog shit on the undercard. At least give me a prospect to look out for. At least give me, you know what I'm saying, someone that might be the future of the sport. He'll just throw two guys in there. He'll put me and you in there if he lets us negotiate.
Yeah, it's basically an Uber driver versus a Lyft driver.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, bro, like throw us some sort of a bone here. But kind of transitioning, and this can be the last topic that we talk about. Before we get out of here, before next week. How are we feeling? I know you have very strong sentiments towards this, so I want you to speak first because I don't think as strongly as you. You might change my mind though. Sometimes when you get, really passionate, it makes me, I kind of carry that over. But, so we got Chocalotito in the rematch against Rungvisai. First of all, let's just throw it out there that we both thought Chocalotito won the first fight. I thought it was fairly handily. I thought the closest you could have it was 7-5. I had it 8-4. I thought it was
I had it 7-5.
7-5. Okay, so I thought it was fairly cut and dry, but regardless, that's besides the point. So, I mean, do we think it's going to be the same result this time around?
No. I think this is what I think. I think Chocalotito does what he does the first fight without getting hit as much, because that was the thing even Crowley said. It's hard to place the guy number one that gets hit that much. Even when he wins, he gets hit a lot.
Yeah.
So I think Chocalotito does what he does, doesn't get hit as much, and then they say, okay, well, you see, he did the same thing. He beat this guy up, but he didn't get hit as much as he did this time, and you got to give it to him. That's what I think he has to do. I think he was taking time fixing his defense because he didn't have an offensive problem. It was just, hey, you got to stop this guy from hitting you so much. You know what I'm saying? The perception could be maybe he's winning because you're getting popped in the face every time you throw one.
Right.
So that's what I think. That's exactly what I believe is going to happen this time. He's gonna come back a little bit defensively tighter and do what he does. And when he wins again, I said again, when he wins again, I think we have to have a top 10 pound for pound discussion because I think it solidifies he did win. He wins, so he takes this one. Now he's back. We got to fit him in there somewhere because I never had him number one, but I had him top 5. And I think you have to get him back in there somewhere in that mix somewhere once he wins.
And I do agree with you, and that was the part that I know you said, before we were talking that you were kind of passionate about that he needs to be, just solidified all the way around back in the top 10 somewhere, if and when he does win, the second time. Now, just kind of how you touched on though, I never had him number 1. I want to say the highest I had him was 4 or 5. Which is still great. That's incredible, for someone that small to even garner the attention of, pound for pound type of rankings is always great for the smaller guys. Now, the one thing I will say is it does bother me that people let official wins and losses dictate their pound for pound list. And I'm not saying you do this. I'm just making a general.
It shouldn't.
Because it shouldn't. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to use an example. After the first Kovalev and Ward fight, I thought Kovalev won the fight. Very close. I could have seen an argument other way. I had it, I think, 7-5 Kovalev with the 1 point. Whatever. That fight's been over with. Ward, solidified that. I'm not trying to argue. What I am trying to say though is after that first fight, I did put Andre Ward number 1 just because it was such a close fight that I could see the other way. But had I thought Kovalev dominated that fight and he got robbed, he would have been number 1 on my list. Right? But he was number 2 on my list because I did think he won the fight. I wasn't moving him anywhere. You know what I mean? He was already kind of the placeholder number 1, maybe number 2. Right. It was hard to say because, a lot of things were going. Floyd was retired. Manny was on his way out. Chocalotito had lost. There really wasn't no one for the solidified number 1. So those were my 1 and 2, really no particular order. And, I wasn't going to let an official loss for Kovalev make me drop him completely out of the top 10 or like the back half of the top 10.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if you felt like he lost the fight, like I know you scored the fight for Ward, there's still a legitimate case for Kovalev being in the top 10 still.
I still had him top 5, but you don't just throw the guy away for a loss.
Especially that kind of a loss, though. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a close fight that is it really a loss? I understand someone has to be a loser, but I've always said I do hate that in certain circumstances because they both in that first fight fought their asses off. They both deserved to win that fight. If there was ever a fight you could give a winner to both of them, none of them came out a loss. They both had wins on the record.
Right.
It was that fight because they both executed a game plan and they both looked damn good, at times during that fight. Now, I kind of went off on a tangent there because I didn't really want to talk too much about that fight, but I'm just saying, like, people completely, as soon as Chocolatito lost, like, well, there he goes. He's not top 10 anymore. Like, dude, like, how did you go from having him unanimously number 1 to completely off the top 10 list over a loss that a lot of people didn't think he really lost?
One loss define everything you built throughout these years.
Especially a fight that most people thought he won. It was a bit ridiculous, but, that's going to be a great fight. Carlos Cuadras is fighting as well. I don't know if it's on the same card or not. I don't even know who he's fighting, but I'm looking at my calendar and I'm seeing that he's on the card. He's fun to watch. I know he's looking for a win, and he probably wants, Roman Gonzalez to win as well so he can get that rematch in there with Chocolatito. That should be fun. But like I said, I don't know if that's the same card or not. I'm not too. I've kind of been out of the loop, like I said, with the smaller stuff. I've been trying to keep up as best as I can. Still kind of getting adjusted to this new job that I got. But yeah, I mean, do you have? I'm pretty much tapped out here for this.
That's all I have. We just got to come back and do it again. And give you guys more content. But for today, I believe we touched on everything we need to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some parting words from me is you guys see us with our Bears gear on. Football season starting.
Let's go.
Call me a homer. Call me a homer,
Bear
but I'm going 9 wins this year, man. I don't know why I have faith in it. I didn't have faith, and I'm not the type that says that every year. I told I didn't think we were going to be great last year or the year before, but something's telling me, man. Something's telling me that front 7 is too vicious. I think we might sneak in with a wild card spot, man. Hey, I'm on record saying that. So we got a big game Sunday against Atlanta. That's gonna be tough though, man. Atlanta's fucking good.
Yeah.
That's gonna be real tough.
Like, the team that went to the Super Bowl right the gate. Somebody don't like the Bears right away.
Yeah, no, that was a raw deal for us.
Right the first game.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be fun though. I'm really excited for Sunday. But hey, guys, everybody, thank you. We found a video host, so we're hoping that we don't have any issues with this because we did record actually a couple times. We tried to, and things were going on with us signing in with Uvu, and then they changed the whole layout. That made it so we're hoping that Google Hangouts treats us well, so then we can get back on our consistency. I know both of us started new jobs pretty much at the same time, so our schedules didn't always align. We're getting that fixed, but so we're hoping to be as consistent as possible, and get back to the once a week podcast, if not twice a week, certain weeks. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think. Share the video. Share it with all the other boxing fans that you guys know. And again, thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.
All right, cool. So let me just save this.